So, hello and welcome. A short review of the game Fat Fritz 1.0 versus GreKo 8.2, which Fat Fritz lost on time in a completely winning position. But okay, here e4, and this was the game between myself and Monarch 1.7 till here. And now Monarch played Rook c8, which was a mistake, but he won the game nevertheless. But here GreKo captured, which is a better move, and played knight f4. And after bishop d3, knight f4, f4 and bishop f1, rook fd8, pinning the knight on d6 and also on d2, and also enabling black to move to d3 probably with the knight, so that's why queen c2 was played, preventing knight d3. Queen f6. Also possible here was the move g5 and maybe followed up with h5, g4 or g4 immediately without waiting of h5. But okay, here GreKo preferred queen f6. And now h4, bishop h6 and a4, rook b1, rook b8, rook a1, king g7, defending the bishop on h6, b4, bishop g4, and now b takes, a takes, and rook a6. And now the only mistake in the game probably was bishop takes f3. Better was, instead of bishop takes f3 here, to play rook d6, and after queen c1, bishop c8, attacking the rook. Rook goes back to a1, rook d8, and knight b3. And here white would have been better, but after bishop takes f3, black is basically lost, because the tactics doesn't work. The tactic isn't working for black. This knight takes b4, of course. It attacks the queen and the rook. Also the queen is attacking the rook, so white loses the exchange here. But in the long run this is not a problem, because the e5 pawn will hang as well, and this diagonal here, the a1 h8 diagonal, is pretty vulnerable, and also there are now many attacking options for white. Also possible the move g3, the knight moves and then bishop takes on h6 in some variations, and yeah, a lot of problems will come for black here. If, for example, you don't want to lose the queen, if you take black's queen by taking the queen, then it's bad for white, because bishop takes c2 and now both rooks are under threat, so that's not possible. Here you would have to remove the knight, and after d takes, again both rooks are hanging, so now the knight is attacked, the rook is lost, and here also the knight is lost. But after all, black is up the exchange with no compensation for white at all. So that's why c takes b4 was played, giving up the rook that way. But knight takes e5, and now the queens are still on the board. The c6 pawn is hanging, and also g3 is threatened now. So something has to be done here. Queen d6 attacking the knight, knight g6 attacking the bishop, and now knight h3. If you, for example, take on b4, then rook b1 attacking the queen, queen c6, knight takes bishop, king takes bishop, and g3. The knight is pinned, you cannot defend it anymore, and bishop takes f4 is threatened, so king g7 and bishop takes f4 attacking the queen, queen d6, and now white is up in material, has two bishops for a queen, and this is very good normally. So that's why we have knight h3, giving up the knight that way. So now again white will have two pieces for the queen, but with a diced pawn structure, so this is slightly better for black than the other variation, but it's still bad for black. Bishop takes e3, rook takes e3, and now as you see there are many attacking options. Rook is coming either to f3, g3, h5, h6 is a problem. This whole diagonal here is a problem, and as you will see in the game, this Fat Fritz will take advantage of all these facts, and GreKo captured on b4, preventing some checks from the queen that way. But now h5, c5, h6 check, king f8. If, for example, the king goes here, then rook there, attacking f2, so you have to defend it somehow. And now knight c5, attacking f2 one more time, rook there, defending, and now knight here, attacking the queen. So let's say queen here, offering a queen, oh no, this is just losing the queen, sorry. So queen here, offering a queen exchange, for example, queen a4, and now it's a mate in 3, because now this check comes. Queen has to block, because if you don't block, if you go here, for example, then this is mate immediately. And if you block it with f6, then it's no better, because rook takes d6, king here, rook takes, check, king here, queen here, check, king there, queen here, check, king there, and queen here, check. And after this move, the rook is lost and everything will fall. Here, this is a mate. So king f8 was played in the game, the best move. Now rook f3, c5, queen c1, a very good move, because it looks in both directions here. Either a1 or f4 are the destinations. So rook queen here, preventing the queen from coming to f4 or g5. But now queen a3 check, attacking the king, queen here, blocking. If, for example, something like this is gonna come, then queen here, or even nicer, bishop takes c4 would be possible then, as I just saw. Bishop takes c4. If you take the queen here, then it's a mate in 3 with rook takes f7, king here, and knight here check, followed up with mate like that. And if you go the other way, then it would be mate immediately. So bishop takes c4 is also possible in that variation. But queen d6, queen a7, rook d7 blocking, the mate threat on f7, and queen e3. Again, g5 is the destiny here, queen g5, attacking the b pawn, so the b pawn is defended. And on at f4, and there is not a way of defending the h pawn anymore. So rook there, e5, even better, queen moves, check, check again, king in the corner, and now queen f4, and after rook d8, knight f4. And as you see, with this activity of the pieces, safe king for white and unsafe king for black, a lot of holes, dark square holes in black's position here, which white can bounce on. Rook a7, and now rook takes e4, queen takes e4, which is the best move. If you go rook d7, then queen f4 check, attacking the rook has to block the second rank, and now e3, e6, and if you take this, then rook a7, and there is not much to do against rook h7 mate, so you would have to give up the exchange here, and not the exchange, a whole rook. And with two pieces up, there is no way of holding this together. You can't even take the h pawn now, because knight f7 would pick up the rook here, and yeah, black is lost. So that's why rook takes e4 was played. And now king h7, rook g3, rook b6, queen d5. Now the king takes the h6 pawn, rook f3, king g7, h4, queen b7, queen d1, queen e4. This is a hard fight here. Black will fights very good to defend his position. Fat Fritz needs a lot of time to find these moves. For example, here there is a threat of taking the bishop and threat of a discovery, winning the f-pawn, probably, or exchange. But here just calm move, rook b7, e6 check anyway, and f6. If you, for example, grab this, if you, for example, move the king, let's say to g8, then queen here, queen e7 and check, and taking the g pawn, so that's not on. So that's why f6 was played. But I wonder, after rook here, queen e4, let's just continue with some random. There is no real good move for black. For example, if you move the queen back here, then it's a mate in 8 actually with taking the rook. Okay, so if you move the rook, let's say to here, then it's a mate in 7. E takes, and now let's say rook takes, mate in 3, queen e8, king here. Yeah, this is the problem. Then you lose the rook anyway, and this is mate. So yeah, that's why f6 was played. Both engines were short on time. Fat Fritz had nearly no time at all, was living in the increment, 2 seconds per move, finds all the good moves here, and sets up a really good and fast blockade here, blockading all of the pawns here. Those 2 pawns are completely controlled by that bishop, so they are going nowhere. They will fall now. So f3, trying to keep the king out of the game. Rook f6. Now you cannot take the f pawn because you could actually. Why isn't the pawn taken? It can wait. You can take the pawn anytime. Oh, I know now. I know. Because if white takes the pawn, then rook takes here, and if bishop takes, then c2 and black is winning because there is no stopping this pawn. So that's why Fat Fritz didn't take on f6 here, on f3, because of this rook sacrifice. And yeah, that's why he played king e1, trying to go even closer to the pawn. Now still the pawn wasn't taken, it doesn't run away. So just bring the king, blockade the pawns, and now you can take on f3, threaten the f5 pawn, king goes back, rook here, rook there, and check. The king goes up the board, and now the b pawn bites the dust, and the f pawn is protected, and in that position here Fat Fritz lost on time. But as you see, it's a completely winning position for white. 2 pawns versus 2 pawns, a rook versus a rook, but there is an extra bishop for white and a passed d pawn. This pawn will bite the dust, and this pawn will run through most probably. So yeah, it's basically lost for black, however you slice it. But that was the game. Stockfish announces a mate in 19 already, so it's pretty busted. The game can continue with rook b7 check, king here, rook there check, king there, and the pawn goes one step further. Rook e3, trying to stop the queening, but now bishop there, and now you would have to give up the rook for the pawn, and this is completely busted, as you see. Now the king approaches, and yeah, something like this could very well be the end. And now the king has only one square to go to, and this is checkmate. So that's how the game could have ended. But as I said, Fat Fritz lost on time in the position. On move 88, Fat Fritz lost on time. It was a really good game by Fat Fritz. The opening was called Anderson variation of the Spanish opening, Rui Lopez. And yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time. Ciao.